think about how valuable oxygen is to us. Think about how valuable hydrogen is to us, but think about how valuable water is, and it's like, so you combine these two elements together and then they create something that is greater than the two of them together.
Welcome to Southern Songs and Stories. I'm your host, Joe Kendrick. That was our guest, Daniel Donato, using an analogy between chemistry and making music with his bandmates. Creating music is a lot like a chemical process, synthesizing ideas and inspiration from different music artists, fusing divergent styles into new and unique sounds, inviting one's muse from somewhere out in the ether into the room where songs are then born. From an early age, Daniel Donato proved himself to be a kind of musical alchemist, taking inspiration from country heroes like Merle Haggard and jam band godfathers Grateful Dead and spinning those into melodic gold that shines brightly on songs like the one you're hearing now, Dance in the Desert, from his third album, Reflector. Still in his 20s, Daniel Donato has quickly made a name for himself as a kind of musical mystic, a master of the Telecaster, and a favorite in the burgeoning cosmic country scene. I spoke with Daniel before his show at Salvage Station in Asheville, North Carolina, at the end of his winter tour in February 2024, where he spoke in depth about his conviction that his life's work is a service to listeners, about his ever-present muse, playing with Bob Weir, and, surprisingly to me at least, being an angry kid who was an avid wrestler not all that long ago. All that and a lot more, including more music from Daniel Donato in this episode of Southern Songs and Stories.
Southern Songs and Stories is part of the podcast lineup of both public radio WNCW and Osiris Media. Osiris creates music podcasts and events to help music fans deepen their connection to the music they love with all of their shows at osirispod.com. Osiris works in partnership with Jam Bass, which connects music fans to the music they love and empowers them to go see live music. Capsule versions of Southern Songs and Stories are produced for broadcast on WNCW by me, Corrie Askew. More information about this and other podcasts from Grassroots Radio, WNCW, at wncw.org.
The title of this episode is Striking the Eternal Chord of Cosmic Country with Daniel Donato, and it refers to when Daniel said in our interview that a certain song struck an eternal chord in him when he first heard it. That song is neither a Merle Haggard nor a Grateful Dead song. You may be surprised to learn what it is, so stick around to find out what other key influence is part of Donato's singular brand of cosmic country. I asked Daniel about his comments that the theme of Reflector is one of duality, pairing on one side 3 chords in the truth with its analog of bravery and exploration, while he puts himself in the middle.
I don't know if I've put myself there so much as I've found myself there, you know. I just try to keep it, the music to be as truthful, beautiful, and good an expression of the personality that I was given. You know, and however that lands, I just have total faith in, complete faith, as much as I can conjure in any given moment, which seems to be an escalating scale as I have more experience, and I can walk in the way in life of faith. I can grow the amount of faith that I can put into anything that I do, which is really an astounding measurement that I've been able to observe and see change just within the past couple of years.
You talk about how with your music, it's like you mentioned that personality as a vehicle, and I had written it down and I forgot to bring my notes, so I'm kicking myself.
Oh no!
But
Let's
personality as a vehicle, and then that extends to being sort of like a vehicle for soul. I think something to that effect.
100%.
Can you explain that to us and tell us, you know, like, what is that personality? Is it something that you can turn on and off? Is it something that you can step outside of?
No, I don't think so. And I'd be interested to hear other people's ideals and ideas if they would have an injection to say that maybe you can. But as far as I can understand, I don't think it's possible to step outside of your own personality. You know, remote viewing it or anything like that, you know, maybe something like that. But when it comes to expressing yourself, you're born with a personality. And there's this great neuroscientist named Andrew Huberman who he has science that essentially says that everything that is physically expressive of one's being, there's an arc to it in life, to where you reach a certain peak and then it starts to diminish, and as you get older, ultimately up until when you're, you know, when the roll's called up yonder, essentially, right? But personality is only in a ascending regime. It never stops developing and changing. It never stops expressing itself, and it never stops growing, and it never stops becoming more you know? And, you know, you think about it when, you know, you're probably much more you because of all the experience that you've had with your personality at this age than when you were at 10. Even though you were in there, now you have all this experience in space and time with this personality, which is something that you're quote unquote born with. So I'm under the belief that personality is something that is transcendent of space and time, and that it is, we're given it for a reason. And there is the parable of not putting the light under the bushel, and which essentially is saying, you know, let the light that you are shine to the highest degree that it can, regardless of what the external world may say. And that will get you in trouble a lot, and it'll get you misunderstood a lot, and it'll get you in uncomfortable situations a lot. But I think it's worth it to render unto yourself that, you know, that kind of a thing. I don't think you can really get outside of personality. I think you can change it, and you could add to it and help integrate it. But I don't think it's something that you can really get rid of or step outside of.
It seems like you're very aware of that push and pull, the yin and yang, as you said.
I try to
that you can't let your personality be everything. You have to be open at the same time.
It depends how open you are as a person, I think. You know, I was born a very open person, and so that'll express itself in a lot of ways. And then there's also a lot of areas in my life where I observe that I'm not very open, and that's just fine by me. Yeah.
So as you go along, how, and you're getting better at what you're doing all the time, how do you still tap into that sort of that root of being a beginner, of that joy of finding things for the first time?
You have to enter the kingdom as a child, right? That's like and that's a great luxury, to keep a provision in your mind for when it comes to operating with an intention, to enter the kingdom as a child. And, the best way that I've been able to find that I can maintain a connection to it is by reminding myself that all of everything in life essentially can be framed as service. The golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would. We all know it. That's essentially a service-based approach, which is the opposite of self-assertion. So the lack of self-assertion, right? That to me always helps me go. It always does. It never fails. When I can remind myself that what I'm doing is for a service for others, that is really nice. And this might be a humbling fact, but there are rippling effects, probably in eternal measures. It would be safe to conjecture that when you have a positive intention and you're trying to serve people with everything that you have, you don't know how great that is and how great that can be in potential. I think a great example would be, all the people that are taking inspiration from great heroes of the past. I doubt Buck Owens or Merle Haggard ever thought that, in 2024, people would be really inspired by their music and taking the spirit that they put into their records and allowing it to, influence other people's records, So that's kind of the thing for me that I'm always trying to do, is just realize that what I do is a service to others. And, you mentioned getting better. The converse to something better would be worse. And I just wonder if it's even more nuanced than it's a better or worse thing, where it's perhaps just more truthful. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not like Bob Dylan's a better singer today than he was when Bringing It All Home came out. But and the reason I think about these things in that way is because I've been doing this for over half my life, and I'm probably going to be doing it for the rest of my life if I'm lucky enough. That's all I'd ever want to do. And I can't help but think that I'm trying to put all my focus into just being more truthful. And truth kind of transcends the duality. I think it informs the duality of good or worse, or evil or good or anything. Kind of transcends that, the truth does, because it's existent through both of them. You either have truth or you have the lack thereof, but it's still observable. So that's the thing that I'm always trying to understand and try to seek out what it is. And I don't think it's as easy in all moments as I used to think it was. What is the truthful thing here? What is the truthful intention? That's all I try to serve, is the truth, and then inherently other people are a part of that service.
That's a bit of Lose Your Mind by Daniel Donato, a song that begins his album Reflector. Its lyrics hint at some of what is going on in Daniel's mind, which is a lot. It sounds like you might think on your own personal truth a fair amount.
All the time.
Do you ruminate on, say, the nature of consciousness, for example?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, the nature. Yeah.
It all seems very strange to me. Like I can't quite
it
come to grips with this is who I am. That sort of backdrop is never far away from my day to day.
That's great. I think that's it's lovely. I feel the same way all the time. I feel the same way all the time. That's all I think about, really. Even when I am doing temporal things, thinking about things I need to get done today, the kind of eternal I is always the thing that informs those du jour daily space and time things. That's all I think about. I think it's all I've ever thought about. And then when I got into music, I was able to connect with the part of my personality that was needing to express itself in a physical way. And, I can express myself through music way better than I can with English language. I can discover things about myself through the way I would express myself through that, And that's harder to do in conversation. It's possible. You have a deep conversation with somebody, or you have a conversation with yourself by thinking, which is hard to do. You ever try to sit down and think and be discerning with yourself? It's hard. Not easy. But when you play music, when I play music, I can discover things about how I feel while doing that, and inherently that adds to the account that is my experience currency, and it just grows and grows and compounds and compounds, nature of consciousness. There's a lot of great explanations out there that I've read, and I'm curious to hear them all. So if anyone listening wants to submit their idea, send me an email. It is just Daniel@danieldonato.com. I'd love to hear what they think about it, Because some people think it's nothing, and some people think it's God. It has something to do with consciousness. Some people would say the universe. Some people would say, there is no God. The universe is without God. Some people would say, they'd rather say the universe than God. And I don't know about all that. And I don't know if it's really possible for us to know. I think it's probably greater than our finite minds can understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless of what your, religious beliefs are, I would throw out there that could the universe really have happened by accident? And cosmologists will tell you that the difference between the universe happening like it happened and we know it now versus not happening is so infinitesimal that it's unfathomable that it could have happened without some purposeful intent.
Intelligent design. Yeah, I'm a believer in intelligent design. I think it's intellectually linear. I think it makes a lot of sense, And also, which universe are we talking about? That's something that people, and when people say they don't believe in God, it's like, well, what part of God? Yeah. What, like the part that you've learned from other people? Oh, well, that's like most things.
Yeah.
You hear things that other people say that don't necessarily sit with you well, and then you have your own experience, and then you develop your own idea about it. I think it's, physically everything points to for me that I think this whole trip is one of an individual theology, regardless of whatever you say you are or what you aren't, and you need classifications of people. You need to say, even with music, you need classifications of genres and stuff. But the music I make is just Daniel Donato music, and and then when I get with my band, then it turns into Cosmic Country. But the thing that comes out of my guitar is Daniel Donato music, and I have my own thumbprint. You have your own thumbprint. You have your own DNA helix. I have my own DNA helix. So why wouldn't we have our own relationship with the first source and center of all that is? There can't just be a couple groups, more or less, that all these people could fit into. That doesn't make any sense to me. And that's the thing I think about music that is so fascinating, because when you come to a show, and this idea that I'm about to say led me to think about this, because if there's 100 people in an audience and there's 4 people on stage, there physically are 104 shows happening because of the way the notes will hit you, like in terms of even just a wavelength. Like if you're standing in the back of the room, my G note is going to sound and feel different to you than it does to me because I'm right by my amp. You know, so there's 104 shows happening. So why didn't there? I would lead myself to think that there's probably 104 religions happening in that room. You know, everyone has a different idea of what's going on. Now, and that's where I think the concept of a brotherhood or sisterhood, or just, I like to call it childhood, that we all share together. I think all of that, that's the great luxury that we have here, is we can share ideals and values and truths with each other through stories and through art and through dialogue and through love, you know, and connect with each other while we're all on our own trip, you know. We're all just like our own ships passing in the night. You know.
How does this play into your songwriting? Are you know, is there any one method to it? Or are you just waiting for the muse, or how does that usually work?
I love seeing the personifications of the muse, like in terms of like how she's, you know, it's often depicted as a female character of some kinds, like even like in Greek culture and all that, and I love that. I can't ever turn it off. I'm just always thinking of things, and it's just really whatever feels truthful to me. In a less abstract sense, I just sit down every day and just work on songs. Like I always have a couple songs that I'm working on, and I'll sit down for like an hour a day when I'm on the road, sometimes more, and I'll just go through songs. Like I'll read through lyrics as if they're a story before they go to music. I'll work on the music a bunch. They bring it to the band, and then there's a compromise and a negotiation that has to happen there, just like anything external in the world. And then there's a whole new level of truth that is accessed once everybody else's personality is alive through the spirit of the song. You know, that's like the magic thing, or part of it probably. So I'm just always working on it and playing around with it, listening to it. Yeah.
It seems like your band is the not so secret sauce.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're incredibly important.
Yeah. Well, I think that's how, you know, even with chemicals, like, you know, think about how valuable oxygen is to us. Think about how valuable hydrogen is to us, but think about how valuable water is, you know, and it's like, so you combine these two elements together and then they create something that is greater than the two of them together. Right. And so I think the same thing happens with personality. If you can get the right personalities together, they create something greater than the individual personalities would be able to conjure through their own endeavor in a singular sense. So if you can get those four together, it might even compound into 12. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, man. My band, I'm very lucky to have my band. There's every night, if not at least 3 times a show. I can't believe that I get to play with these guys. I really can't. It's just brilliant, absolutely astounding, you know. And I have my old band leader, Don Kelly. More or less, just through working with him, I was able to learn and experience what it means to surround yourself with a band that is of a certain frequency. And then I went and had a bunch of other experiences where band leaders were not as aware of the necessity of that. And then I got to play with a bunch of bands where the frequency was different. I would say lower, you know.
Probably not guesting with Bob Weir, though, from the sound from what I heard on that.
Oh, playing with Bob was wild. It was like playing chess with Bobby Fischer, except music isn't intellectual like that, but it was like very much like I made a move that he knew the move I was going to make and already had another one planned, challenged me with another one, you know. And it was just like, whoa. You know, after I played with Bob that night at the Orpheum, that's when I solidified Reflector as being the title for this record. You know, because he was reflecting right back at me my intention. You know, I'd bend something really hard, and then he would hit the top G, B, and E strings with like a dominant 7, add 9, something really cool. You know, whoa, you knew what that meant, and then you had a voicing to complement that and reflect it back at me. You know? Then he would go to like a D minor when the song's in G, you know, be like, adds a whole new mood. That's where all the McCoy Tyner stuff comes from.
Daniel Donato has some songs that he comes back to time and time again in his shows, this being one of them, Darling Corrie, a song first recorded all the way back in 1927, and since then put on record by a great number of artists, ranging from Amethyst Kia to Bill Monroe, Harry Belafonte, Doc Watson, Old Crow Medicine Show, just to name a few. And speaking of Amethyst Kia, Ketch from Old Crow, and Doc Watson, all of those artists are featured on Southern Songs and Stories in past episodes that you can check out. Now, this version of Darling Corrie was recorded in Asheville, North Carolina, not at the Salvage Station, but at the Grey Eagle Music Hall back in March 12th, 2022. And I'm sharing that here via archive.org, a great resource for a lot of live music especially. Daniel talks about this song coming up, also about the song that struck that eternal chord with him. I asked Daniel what attracts him to songs like John Prine's Angel from Montgomery and Darling Corrie.
I think they have a spirit. There's a spirit of truth that they have that speaks to my personal spirit of truth, and they turn me on musically. They inspire me, and I can't help but notice that the more I try to play things that inspire me, and then they come through my own personality, there's an authentic reality that's created there, and that help and a lot of other people find value in that. And I can tell really fast if I like something or not. I'm sure you can too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, isn't that weird?
Yeah,
it's a strange thing, really.
Mm-hmm.
You're more or less. It's almost like something is telling you. It's like, And so I would hear and I heard all those songs when I was playing down at Robert's Western World when I was as a teenager. Mm-hmm. When I, from 14 to 19 years old, I discovered all these songs. Discovered all of it. Mm-hmm. And I would never have known about any of this. Had it not been for that one honky tonk in Nashville and my dad and I stumbling in there one day, and him taking me every weekend to go discover all these songs. Because these are old traditional songs that a lot of people don't really know, or not Angel from Montgomery, but Darling Corrie, Tumblin' Tumbleweeds, songs like that. These are essentially folk ballads, mm-hmm. Public domain.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one that's definitely not a folk ballad that I hear that you might be working on is a certain Guns N' Roses song.
Okay, this internet. I don't get where this. Not Pollock started this, by the way. I know he started it. Was it Paradise City? My Guns N' Roses. Jesus Christ.
That's what I came across in digging around for tonight to talk to you. Is like, ask him about if they're going to work this up.
Yeah, it's so funny, man. Our community is so funny. It's so great. You know, it's so beautiful to really witness that. I couldn't sing Axl Rose. Like, I don't have that kind of a voice. I could play Slash, though. I would wail on some Slash any day. But I can't sing Axl Rose, you know. I'd have to, maybe Nathan could sing that. But that's not even his voice. He's more falsetto. Maybe one day. Maybe he could do like a bluegrass version of it. But that song, I heard that song when I was 12, and it struck this huge eternal chord in me. It was just the sound of the chord progression just sounded very free and soaring and vast and truthful, you know. So that's probably where that came from. Yeah.
You've been watching any Lithuanian basketball?
Oh, no, I haven't.
I saw you with the shirt on stage in one of your videos, and I had to think, okay, so there's the connection with the dead, and
of course.
And then you've mentioned about loving sports, at least as a youngster.
I wrestled. Yeah, I wrestled. My dad got me into wrestling because I was a really angry kid. I had a lot of energy, and I was very competitive, and I wanted to work really hard. And so he put me into wrestling. It was great for me. He put me into wrestling and into chess, and those were just great avenues for me to express my personality as a young boy. You know, yeah.
I can't imagine you as a angry 5-year-old.
Yeah. Well, but you just got to talk to my mom. She would be able to tell you exactly how I was, an angry 5-year-old. You know, something got integrated, as Freud would say. You know, I was able to integrate a lot of my anger and my just drive. I'm very driven. You could ask anyone in my band this. Like, I'm very driven, like to an unhealthy degree. Like, you know, like because I'm doing this for my life, and I will die. You know, I'll die for this. Like, this is what I do. This is also what I feel I came into this world to discover and create and learn and serve, is this music. So I do it for my life to the highest degree that I can conjure on any given evening, some more than others. You know, so I had a lot of drive, and I still do, but when I was younger, I don't know what it was, but the moment I found music, like right away, like the anger just in the drive. I look at it more as drive, but there is anger that's involved in drive, and anger is a good thing. It shouldn't be, you know, put away into the shadows, because then it turns into the dragon with 3 heads, which isn't good. You don't want the Hydra knocking at your door. So the second that I was able to really feel that eternal settling with music, where I really felt like that's what I could do this for the rest of my life, I was almost instantly able to channel all the drive into that, and the anger kind of dissipated. But I still have my days. Yeah.
Cool. Putting a bow on this episode on Daniel Donato with another new song from Reflector, the instrumental Sugar Leg Rag. Thank you for listening. We are thankful you're here and for spreading awareness of this endeavor. It's as easy as telling a friend and following this podcast on your platform of choice. From there, it takes just a moment to give us a top rating, and where it's an option, a review. It makes a big difference, because the more top reviews and ratings we get, the more visible we become to everyone on those platforms, which means that more people just like you will connect with artists like Daniel Donato and hundreds more that are at your fingertips. This series is a part of the lineup of both Public Radio, WNCW, and Osiris Media, with all the Osiris shows available at osirispod.com. You can also hear new episodes on Bluegrass Planet Radio at bluegrassplanetradio.com. Thanks to everyone at the Salvage Station for their hospitality, and to my friend Greg Gerald for taking photos of our interview. Thanks to Corrie Askew for producing the radio adaptations of this series on Public Radio WNCW, where we worked with Joshua Meng, who wrote and performed our theme songs. I'm your host and producer, Joe Kendrick, and this is Southern Songs and Stories, the music of the South and the artists who make it.